show. I am joined by Aaron Dill. I don't think I need much introduction, but Aaron, what's your role for Titleist? What are we going to be talking about today?
Simply put, I'm the wedge rep on the PGA Tour, but I am director of wedge relations.
Awesome. Something I wanted to really start off with is obviously grinds. We see the WedgeWorks program where it is more so what would you call WedgeWorks compared to a retail line in terms of sectioning them between each other?
I would call it our grinds proving ground.
Okay.
Right? So we use the WedgeWorks profile and page to showcase interesting, fun things that the tour's trying, gravitating to, experimenting with. That's really where all of our stuff comes from. Is the tour, the pyramid of leadership is just them showing us this is what we need, this is why. Let's explore it, experiment, and see if it's the right thing for the line.
Yeah. What is the progression of, let's say, you hand grind a wedge in the van, a player sees it, we all know it's a copycat world out there, the next person sees it, you have to make more of them. What's that process of just a custom one-off to WedgeWorks to retail?
Yeah, we try to be as authentic as we can at all times.
Of course.
And I think Bob has done a tremendous job over the years, over his 20-plus year time with us, is just kind of understanding what the golf courses are looking for, what the players are looking for, and how you put that into the bottom of a golf club. So the progression of the whole process is tour player comes to you and says, hey, I'm playing X wedge.
Yeah.
It's really good. However, there are a couple things about it that I'm not really loving. What do you think we should do?
Gotcha.
We take that to the polishing wheel. Those questions, that process sparks the ideas of let's polish here, let's change this, let's test it.
Yeah.
And if that testing process goes well, it goes in the bag for play. It goes through tournament after tournament. If it's successful, then their buddies are asking about it.
Yep.
They want to do it now. So it's really common if you go out on tour, you see players in each other's bags. You're like, oh, what's going on here?
Oh,
which is super fun.
Always hear stories of that.
That's how these things come to life.
That's crazy.
So one turns to 2, to 10, to 20. Before you know it, I'm going into Bob's office begging him to make a tool. I'm like, can we please make a tool? I don't want to do any more of these. And there you go. You've got something for WedgeWorks, or if you're really, really lucky, you've got something for the main line.
Yeah, and that brings me into the next question. So the most recent, I would say it's not every product release, but normally we'll always see something move from WedgeWorks into the retail consumer line.
Yes.
Most recent being 06K. What was the turning point to say, okay, this is something that we want to mass produce for like your everyday golfer?
Well, those are things we talk about all the time in meetings is do we have the right matrix or lineup of wedges? We currently have 27 in our lineup, which is a lot. And introducing the 06K and 58 and 60 has pushed us to that number. When we sit around a table and we think about what is in the best interest of our golfers, we need to offer the most robust matrix of different options we can. And the K at 6 degrees was something we needed because players wanted low bounce, but they wanted help in the sand, and that's precisely what that club does. So it was great for us to take something that has been so successful for 2 decades and put it in the line for consumers to enjoy.
And it's always so funny to see someone look at a wide sole wedge and it's automatically kind of like pushed to the side.
No thanks.
And it's so like talking to people on the floor and in fittings, they would see that they're like, oh, who plays that? I was like, have you heard of Adam Scott before?
Yeah.
And then you bring that up, Justin Thomas, like these guys that have wide sole wedge and can still manipulate it. And then that's where again 06 comes into for something where a little bit of a tighter lie can still work there. Low bounce wedges is always a topic of conversation too, as someone that first bounce in general is the first conversation, and then what each does, and then you see a lot of the guys on tour playing primarily low bounce wedge. Not all of them are created equal though. You have T grind, you have 06K, you have all the different K variations. You have V grind, you have L. Let's start off base between like T grind and 06K. What is the main difference between those two for someone that is trying to pick maybe between one or the other?
It's a good question. There's a bunch of options we have as a low bounce offering, somewhere around 4 to maybe 6 degrees. When you look at the bottom, when you look at the dimensions, the way we design things, they're based on certain things that we need, right? So if we add more width to something like the K at 6 degrees or the Star, which you see on WedgeWorks, these are for players who want the club to hug the turf when they pitch chip square, but they want a little forgiveness in the bunkers, right? So that's that nice combination. And then you look at the 60T or the 58T and you go, oh my gosh, here's this ultra low bounce at 4 degrees. That's precisely why we did it, was we wanted players to have the max versatility they wanted, which is opening up that face and seeing that wedge sit still nice and tight to the surface. That's where the T grind shines, is that trailing edge is polished really, really low. Awesome. Then you transition into the L, which is a slightly increased version of the T. And then you have an A, which is a version of the L with no ribbon that increases speed through the turf. So a big part of this is understanding what your players are looking for, having those conversations and saying, tell me about the golf course. Tell me about things you're feeling that you don't enjoy, and start catering to those problematic areas, and you got a winner. Because if you find the right bottom, players are more confident, they swing faster, they hit better shots, and that translates into every part of the game.
It's crazy how much bounce and grind can play into a golfer's psyche in terms of their confidence with a wedge game.
For sure.
I remember I had a fitting one time, a guy came in, he looked at me, he's like, I can't hit a wedge to save my life, I'm shanking everything, and he's a super steep guy, got him into a 14K, I was like, hey, just try this out a little bit, and immediately, ball first contact, and he looks back at me, he's like, you just saved my wedge game. And again, it was something as simple as a bounce change, where now he was making proper contact.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we're in the business of making the best grinds and wedges in the game, which we're doing. But my job, which is something I take very seriously, is I'm just trying to help players find confidence, right? I'm a confidence salesman. It's really what I'm doing. And the best way for us to do that, to help players feel better about what they're doing, is just to find the right tools.
Just got to test it out.
That's it. So, you got to get fit. If you can't get fit outdoors, check out the app. The Vokey app's incredible.
It's amazing.
15 minutes, a few shots. You've got a really, really honest assessment of what you need. But always, if you can get outdoors and hit shots, you got to do it. That'll give you the best idea of what's right for you.
One last question for you. Obviously, tour rep, you're working with all those guys. What's the, again, it's not craziest story, but craziest grind or like most work you've had to do with a player, of like the most funky grind that you've had to work on for a player, where it's like, you did something, you're like, why am I even trying this? But then it ended up working for them.
I don't know if I could come up with one particular story. The reality is every day is a new, unique challenge. I was actually just talking with Scott Stallings downstairs. He's here in the booth.
Oh, awesome.
And Scott and I were reminiscing about some of the stuff that we've done over the years. Scott has a very unique want when it comes to his wedges. He wants round. He wants oversized. He wants less offset. He wants a bigger sole with more forward bounce, but he still wants heel relief. So, you're talking about a lot of conflicting things going on. So you're trying to find that perfect bounce. That's just one of the many, many things that we do to help our players find something that they love. Even something down to like looking at our top line thicknesses and saying, you know what, I don't want to look at that anymore. I want something thinner, or I want more heel relief, or I want more mass on the bottom. Whatever it may be, that's the fun part about being out on tour and working with the best players in the world, is they are really great at challenging us to find new and interesting ways to make better golf clubs.
Awesome. Aaron, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much, man.